and in front of the person you are standing. Okay, for the person you are mandapa. Okay, what I have told that in front of you the person is standing, the person is garbhagriha, and for the person you is mandapa, and the road that will connect the person and you is called antaral. It is sometimes also called vestibule. Have you remembered what I am going to say? That Garbhagriha is the Shiv deity. Garbhagriha is the place where Shiv deity is presented. Mandapa is the place where worshippers assemble together. And the road that connect the Garbhagriha and Mandapa is called Antaral or vestibule. The person is standing in front of you, the person for you is Garbhagriha, and for the person you is Mandapa, and the road that will connect both of you is called Antaral or vestibule. These are some structural elements of Indian temple. Okay. After that, writer says that the medieval period in India was like the Middle Ages in Europe, an age of fate. Then why does the writer says this line that medieval temple is an age of fate? While we are discussing the in our first lecture, we have discussed about secular art. And in that case, we have seen that in European art, generally, architecture were portrayed according to some religious perception. Okay, the figures are portrayed like Pope or Father of Church bearing long garments. Okay, in Europe it is imagined or it is thought that the popes were very sublime figure. They were tall, high. Okay, then a sculpture were also portrayed like the tall, along with this imagination. Okay, sculpture were also very tall. Okay, they were covered with long garments that covers from head to toe. Okay, head to toe. Okay. That religious element again pervaded in the Middle Ages. Why Middle Ages in temples in Middle Ages was called the bear the elements of faith? Because in this age there is a prevalence of Shilpa Shastra. What does it mean? That Shilpa Shastra gives the instructions that how to construct a temple, where to construct, what are the elements, where to put them. Okay, because it is Garbhagriha, in front of Garbhagriha, Mandapa has to be structured. Okay, and vestibule has to connect both Garbhagriha and Mandapa. In this way, there are some instructions which were written in Shilpa Shastra. Okay, and the builders always follow this instructions of Shilpa Shastra strictly. That is why it is said that the temples in medieval age was bears the temples in medieval age bears the element of faith. Okay, then another thing is that though the writer says that though during this period the temples developed right from the Gupta period, they were not so advanced. They were still not able to free themselves from the earlier wooden prototype. Okay, mortar means cement. Cement was not known to people, but still cement was not widely used in temples in the initiation of the medieval ages. Okay. Then another thing is that another important thing, the temple was ornately decorated, often even to the dark shrine room, lighted only by flickering oil lamps. This line is very important because generally the temple was decorated, but the temple in medieval ages generally remained dark. Temple in medieval ages generally remained dark, but how this darkness was taken as a chance to elaborate. I already told you. The person in front of you, suppose the person in front of you is Garbhagriha, and you who is standing in front of the person is Mandapa, and the road that connect you and the person is Antaral. In medieval temples, what happened? The road means the vestibule, the Antaral was illuminated with burning earthen pot. On both sides of the antaral or vestibule, some lighted ardent pots were kept, which lighted the whole temple. And the most important thing is that it provided a very mystical character to Indian temples in medieval India. Remember this thing. Okay. And in medieval temples, what happened during this period, the pillars which were used in Indian temples, the base of the pillars was broad in comparison to the top. Top was generally narrow and base of the pillars were broad, and it provided a solidarity to Indian temple. Okay, then what we have seen till this moment, we have seen that in Gupta period, temple building developed in India throughout different stages. Okay, though Gupta temples developed in Gupta period, Gupta temples were small. They bear flat roof, but Deoghar temple in Jhansi shows an advancement because a small tower rises from the roof in Deoghar temple. After that, we have seen different elements. What is Garbhagriha, what is Mandapa, what is Antaral. Garbhagriha is the place where Shiv Titi is presented. Mandapa is the place where worshippers assemble. The portion that connects both Mandapa and Garbhagriha is called Antaral or vestibule. And one thing, remember that I forgot to tell you, that during the initial phase, the Garbhagriha was connected with the Mandapa. Garbhagriha was connected with the Mandapa, but when temple building they gradually developed, elaboration developed, architectural elements developed, the Garbhagriha was generally separated from the Mandapa, and Antaral was added as an element of improvement to connect the Garbhagriha and Mandapa. During the initial period of temple building, Garbhagriha was connected with Mandapa, but as temple building developed, they were separated but connected through the road on Antaral. And I have already told you what is Antaral, what is Garbhagriha, and what is Mandapa. Okay, then after that I have told you that it is called the temples in medieval India were element of faith. Why it is called faith? Faith because it strictly followed the instructions of Shilpa Shastra while building temple. Another temple is that what is the mystical element of Indian temple? During that period, the mystical element is that generally the temple was dark, but both sides of the vestibule or antaral were lighted with ardent pot that provided a mystical character amidst darkness to Indian temple. Okay, in the last chapter I will discuss about different temple style, North Indian and South Indian temple style according to the book of A.L. Basham. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Okay guys, in our last chapter, Art, Architecture, Music, Dance from A.L. Basham, we have seen how temple has seen a transitional phase, how from the Buddhist stupa, right from the Buddhist stupa to the temples in Mamalapuram, to the temples in, right from the Buddhist stupa to the temples in Elephanta Cave, we have seen how temple transformed. We have seen what is freestanding temple. Freestanding temple means the temple were not dependent on rock, which stands on its own merit. These are called freestanding temple. Okay, and in freestanding temples, under freestanding temple, we can count Kailash temple in Ellora, temples in Ratha temples in Mamalapuram, and Elephanta temples in Elephanta Cave. Okay. Here we have seen how from the Buddhist stupa, in cave architecture, gradually temple architecture developed. Okay, now I am going to give lecture on Indian temple. Remember one thing, I will give a separate lecture on Indian temple different way, but here I am going to give lecture on Indian temple only on the basis of the book A.L. Basham. Whatever A.L. Basham has written in the book, I am only going to give lecture on that on those written elements. Okay, here the tempo here in this book A.L. Basham, the writer has not differentiated very analytically the temple style. Okay, that's why I separated analytical description on temple in another lecture, and apart from this I am going to tell you that about Indian temples whatever writer has written in this book. Okay, uh, all right, you see, till the Gupta period, there is no, we have already discussed that till the Gupta period we have not found any specimen of architecture because most of the architectures were made of wood. Okay, then right from the Gupta period the architectures are found, evidences of architecture are found because stone came into prevalence in architecture. The most memorable and mindable thing in this lecture is that temple architecture began in India, developed in India right from the Gupta period. Gupta period is the initiation of temple architecture in India. Okay, right? In Gupta period there are different stages, 3-4 stages in which temple developed. Okay, the most important thing is that the North Indian temple and South Indian temple, both kind of temples derive their elements from the Gupta period. Okay, and I'm going to give you lecture on tell you on another lecture what are the elements and how temple develop in different stages temple develop in Gupta period. Okay, these were not elaborated in A.L. Basham book, that's why I separated them for another lecture. Okay, here you mind that the temple architecture developed in India in Gupta period through different stages. Okay, both North Indian and South Indian temple developed their elements right from the Gupta period. Okay, this is the main thing. And in Gupta period, okay, what are the characteristics of the what are the Gupta temple? Okay, the characteristics of Gupta temple are that most of the temples bear pillars. Okay, and pillars were surmounted. Pillars, at the top of the pillars they were surmounted by animal motifs. Animal motifs means different kind of animals were portrayed at the top of the pillars. Okay, it is one of the main features of the Gupta temple that these temples bear pillars. Okay, and these pillars bears animal motif. Animal motifs means at the top of the pillar different architectural animals were portrayed in architectural form. Okay, and another thing is that in the entrance of the temple were often elaborated with mythological scene and figure. Okay, what we have seen two elements, that the temples in Gupta period bear pillars were surrounded by animal motifs at the top. Okay, and entrance of the temples always portrayed with mythological figure. Another thing is that Gupta temples were not so big. Okay, Gupta temples are not so big, they were very small, and their roof of the temples were flat. Roof of the temple was flat in Gupta period. Okay, then what elements we have seen that during the Gupta period temples bear pillars were surrounded by animal figure. Okay, entrance were sculpted with mythological scene, temples were small, and the temples bear a flat roof. Okay, temples bear a flat roof. Gradually, this flat roof developed in Gupta period, from where South Indian temple derived these elements. Okay, I'll discuss in another chapter, but for the time being, remember that Gupta temples were small and they have only flat roof. Okay, the temple in Gupta period who is evidence advancement in architectural elements is temple in Deoghar temple in Jhansi, made during the Gupta period has shown an advancement. Why it is shown an advancement? Because here a small tower rose above the sanctum. Small tower rose above the sanctum. Till this now, what we have discussed, that Gupta periods were small and they bear flat roof. Okay, but in this temple in Deoghar, okay, what we have seen, it does not bear a flat roof. Okay, here we have seen a small tower that rise above the sanctum. Sanctum means the deity, the Garbhagriha, where the main deity is presented. Okay, till now we have seen that the Gupta period is the most noticeable period in Indian architecture, because temple architecture develops right from this Gupta period. There are different stages through which temples developed in Gupta period. Okay, Gupta temples in Gupta period bear pillars. Pillars were surrounded by animal figures. Okay, entrance of the temples were generally portrayed with mythological figure. The temples were generally small and bears flat roof, but Deoghar temple in Jhansi bears so an advancement in temple architecture during the Gupta period, because instead of flat roof, this temple shows a tower. Okay, small, modest, not so big tower, but a small tower that that rises above the sanctum. Sanctum means the deity Girha, or the place Garbhagriha, where the main deity, the worshipping deity of the temple is presented. This is the main features of the these are the main features of the Gupta temples. Okay, according to the according to the book Owner That Was India by A.L. Basham. Okay, the another thing is that the next we will switch over to some elements of standard Hindu temple. The writer says that the standard type of Hindu temple which has persisted from the 6th century to the present day was not fundamentally different from that of ancient Greeks. This line is very important. The keyword is not fundamentally different from that of the ancient Greek. That means what? The Indian temples at the initial period bears the element of Greek temple architecture. Okay, then what are the how Indian temples bears affinity to Greek temple? Okay, what are the elements during that period that Indian temples derived from Greek temple architecture? They are like the heart of the temple was a small dark shrine room. It is a Garbhagriha. Okay, mind that I told that the keyword means the Garbhagriha. Garbhagriha means the where the main deity of the temple is presented. It is called Garbhagriha. Like the Greek temple, Garbhagriha was presented in Indian temple. Okay, what is Garbhagriha? The Garbhagriha is the where the main worshipping deity of the temple is presented. The another thing is that it bears a mandapa. Mandapa means where the worshippers sit. In front of the sanctum, it is presented Mandapa hall, and Mandapa is where the worshippers present, or where the worshippers sit or to assemble together. It is called Mandapa. Okay. First, then mind that I'm going to tell you most important things. You imagine. To understand this structure, now you imagine. Okay, I am going to say you, and along with my sentence you imagine yourself. Okay, then it will be very easy to understand a temple structure. In front of you there is a person. Okay, in front of you there is a person. You suppose the person is Garbhagriha, means they are the person is the main worshipping deity. We call it Garbhagriha. Okay, and in front of the person you are standing. Okay, in front of the person you are standing, you are Mandapa. Okay, in front of you the person is standing, the person for you is Garbhagriha. Okay, where Shiv deity is presented, and in front of the person you are standing. For the Okay guys, I have made a mistake. The mistake is that I told that mortar means cement was not known to people. It should be mortar, matlab means cement was known to people, but its use was not so prevalent. Okay, then another is that in the last line of the lecture I told that in the last chapter, it should be in the next chapter we will discuss. Okay, thank you.